Hi folks, right, I just thought I'd do this little video to tell you about a few things that have happened this week. Well, could be nothing, but I just thought I'd tell you anything that was quite interesting. I've not done many videos recently because I've been that full on with work, and I've also been sort of looking after a friend who's quite poorly, which has taken up quite a bit of time, and when you work for yourself you just have to do it. I'm afraid that if you've got less orders, it means you've got to do even more work yourself. Anyway, the point is, what happened this week was, in fact it was yesterday, there's a chap who's got a unit across the road from me at work, and he's a lovely old chap. He's very eccentric. He sort of finely tunes old Formula whatever racing cars, and he's very eccentric, and he's lovely. Anyway, he came over to see me and he said, have you got an email address? Because somebody needed to send him an email. So I said, yes, no problem, Stuart. So anyway, I gave him my email address, and my name's Isabel. So I gave him my personal email address, which starts iso.bel. So he says to me, he says, obviously he knew that was my name, and he said, do you know the history of your name? He said, I researched this years ago, he said, because there was some, I don't know, some car or something that came out. Anyway, so he's not on the internet, never has been, so he must have done proper research, obviously in books, as people used to do years ago. So he says the name Isabel means, it comes from Isis, which means, beautiful Isis, Isabel. And he said, and Isis, he says, was the queen of cats. Right, so I said, oh yes, Stuart, yes. He says, and it also means Elizabeth. He says, and I think that's rather strange, he said, because at the moment, he says, on the throne, he says, we've got Elizabeth and Philip, and there was some Queen Isabella or something of Spain, and she had something to do with the Philip. Well, I don't know who that was. He said, I just think it's the same, he said, because, you know, they're both the same. Anyway, so I thought, that's strange. I mean, I've often looked in you know, over the years, obviously as you do, what does your name mean? And it always says Isabel means Elizabeth. Anyway, so and he says that, you know, Isabel comes from Isis. So I thought, that's quite interesting then. So that's quite interesting, because that means that the name Elizabeth, and we also, obviously we all know of a famous person who's called Elizabeth, her name actually does mean Isis. Now, we'd never have discovered this without Stuart telling me. And he said the reason why I did all this research was because this car came out called Isis years and years ago in, I don't know, whatever, Formula, whatever it was, you know, he was racing in. Anyway, so I thought that's, you know, interesting thought then. Obviously, I'm not very best pleased that my name does mean the same as the other Elizabeth. Anyway, however, so then this week I happened to be looking on here, and I noticed that we've got this new asteroid, haven't we? That is called the QE2. Now, here we go. Look, I've got this here. I've been watching this on this 2012 Delight. She's done some nice videos, and there's one here which I'm sure you've all seen, but I'll just quick show you a bit of this here. It's going to record. Let's see.
Might also be nice to circle May 31st on the calendar just to be on the safe side. That's because a huge asteroid called 1998 QE2 is going to pass by us at the relatively safe distance of 3.6.
Okay, so that's quite interesting, because obviously the QE2 is the name of a famous ship, isn't it? The Queen Elizabeth II. 1998. We're now in 2013, 15 years ago. Now, that's quite interesting, because the other thing in the sky that we're all looking at and wondering if it's going to hit us is called comet Ison. So there's a similarity there, isn't there? One's called Ice, begins with IS, and the other one is Queen Elizabeth II. Well, while we go into all that a minute, so I was watching, if you remember last year, I don't know if obviously people who have been watched the video, but we were thinking about the Queen, weren't we, and how she'd gone. It was her silly Jubilee last year, and she went to the Chelsea Flower Show in a very bizarre hat. And I did a video, which is here, called Saturn diamonds, the Queen, and the Magic Towers. And that's all about the symbology at the time with it's all to do with the number 15, Saturn, the whole shebang. I mean, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to give them any sort of energy. But it's just interesting to be aware of. And what's happened now is we've had, it's the Chelsea Flower Show again this year. Now, all these things have just sort of come to me synchronistically, really, because I just happen to remember, oh, it's Gardener's World. I do like to watch that, actually, because I do like to try and do a bit of gardening. And it's always on a Friday night, 8:30. Well, this week it's from the Chelsea Flower Show, so it was a year ago that Queenie went to the Chelsea Flower Show. Now, we've just had a most bizarre event happen here in the UK, and I haven't even watched the news, but I know what's happened. This strange bloke went and attacked some soldier outside the Woolwich Barracks. And I don't want to be gory, but basically, from what I can understand, and I haven't even watched the news about it because I just don't want to focus on it, but he basically attacked this chap with a machete, as far as I can understand, and did despicable things to him. Obviously, he's dead. He was a soldier. And then this guy just hung around for 20 minutes talking to people who I believe filmed him on a mobile phone, waiting to be arrested. Now, I haven't, as I say, I haven't watched it or focused on it at all. But from what I've heard of it, I thought, well, that seems strange. It just seems just like that chap in America that, and I don't know if it was Adam Lanza, if I've just invented that name, or if that was one shooter anyway, who did a bizarre shooting, didn't he? And then he sort of like, you know, told the police, and be careful when you go to my flat because it's booby-trapped. I thought, this just sounds to me of people who are programmed. So when you think to yourself, that's interesting, well, Woolwich surely isn't near Chelsea. Then we find this. Chelsea Barracks has moved to Woolwich. So there you go. This is where this shooting of this chap was. And yeah, the Royal Artillery, all the soldiers. I saw it on one of these links here. Chelsea Barracks basically was the 1960s Ison. 300 ceremonial duties personnel would move to Woolwich station. So Chelsea Barracks is actually moved to Woolwich. So I thought that was quite interesting that we've got this. I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of coincidences with, you know, comet Ison, and then we've got the QE2. You know, all happening on the anniversary of the Chelsea Flower Show, where the Queen went and had this strange iris brooch, which she was presented with. It was all very strange. I'll have to watch the other video. Anyway, one other thing I'll just tell you, which is one more strange coincidence about this whole story that's come about this week well, it's only since yesterday, was that Stuart, who came across to tell me about, you know, to get the email address, he actually kind of lives in this unit across the road from me, and he looks after all these stray cats, which is why he was telling me, you know, about Isis being known as the Queen of the Cats. And I mean, bizarrely, even yesterday he had to take one to the vet, and he said it cost him 70 quid. He loves these cats. And I thought, and then look what we've got here. I just happened to catch this on, before its news. Giant Sphinx discovered among Bermuda Triangle. Now, I haven't watched this story, read this. I don't know if it's true. I just haven't got time. As I said, I've just been doing that much work. I've been going to blooming bed early because I've got that much on, and one thing and another. I haven't even read it all. But it's just bizarre, because if that is the case, that Isis was known as Queen of the Cats, we've got obviously the Sphinx and another one. If there's another one there, I just thought that was quite interesting. This is another, you know, another strange little coincidence or something I noticed to put into the pot. So there you go. And yeah, thanks then, folks. Take care. Bye.